So what we want to do today is, but I'm going to share with you some teaching, and we call this 2 states of being. 2 states. So the first thing is recognizing that there are only 2 states that we can be in at any moment in time. 2 states. One state is powerful state of being. The other is a primal state of being. And powerful states are like joy, excitement, curiosity, passion. All those things on the right-hand side of the chart are powerful states. Right? And that's partly why, with those affirmations that you've been doing with the book, as well as your one from the quiz, keep you in a powerful state. And as you testified, it's working for you. The other state of being is a primal state. And that states like stress, anxiety, feeling bored or feeling overwhelmed. Anger is a primal state. Jealousy, all those kinds of things, they come from fear. And the thing is you are always in one state or the other state in any moment in time. You're either in a powerful state in a moment or in a primal state in a moment. And you're either in a primal state or a powerful state in any moment, and you can never be in both states at the same time. Now, there's no judgment about being in a primal state or a powerful state. There's no right or wrong to this. But what we can acknowledge and appreciate is that everything we want in our lives is in or it comes from a powerful state of being. Yes? Yes. Thank you. All of the creativity and the inspiration and the energy and the intuition, the intelligent thoughts and ideas, all of that you need to create what you want in your life, it only comes from being in a powerful state. So when you're in suffering, which is the primal state, then you cut yourself off from all of that. And from the reservoir of infinite intelligence that's here and all around you, and coming through you, and coming to you, that you have access to. Suffering cuts us off from that support. So the key to having a powerful living experience and creating everything that we want in our lives is to spend as much time as possible in a powerful state. It's true, isn't it? Yes. So the other distinction, so that's one distinction, the 2 states of being. The other distinction is that suffering, when we experience any kind of suffering, that is separate from the experience. I hope you've taken some notes.
The concept of what you're saying, very close to, there's a difference between the event that happens and the story we tell ourselves about the event. And it's the story that we tell ourselves that could possibly cause the suffering.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's exactly what it is. And it's always that way. We've observed that suffering does not exist in nature. Right? So the suffering is separate from the experience. And as you say, there's a difference between the event and the story that we tell about it. And our beliefs, our limiting beliefs, are really tied to the stories. But what we've observed is that suffering doesn't exist in nature. It doesn't exist anywhere in the natural world. We're part of the natural world too. But when we say suffering, we don't mean when a cheetah takes down an antelope. That's a temporary pain. That's part of the ecosystem. You know, only the strong survive and it doesn't last long. But we're talking about the psychological kind of suffering that most people are experiencing on a day-to-day basis for most of their lives.
Okay.
And you don't see squirrels stressed out that they're not going to be able to find a nut, right? Birds aren't worried about whether or not they're flying in the right or the wrong direction. Matter of fact, birds trust so much that they're always flying in the right direction. It's kind of like if we were able to trust spirit, trust the process, trust life working for us, like that mother bird who goes out in the morning flying in whatever direction to get food for the baby, but comes back with her belly full. You look at nature, you look at flowers. Flowers don't compare themselves to other flowers. There's trees out there, they're not saying that they're not good enough or they're not worthy for the sun to shine on them, right? But human beings have this unique distinction of being the only ones in creation able to create suffering in a world where suffering doesn't naturally exist. Can y'all see, does this make sense? Can you see what we're saying here? You picking up what we're putting down? Thank you. So if suffering is the problem, it's really separation, it's disconnection. It's disconnecting us from our power. It's disconnecting you from your personal power, while also causing you, us, to experience emotions that don't feel good. So the natural question is, what is causing the suffering? Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So the only cause of suffering is your own thinking. Let me repeat this. I want the brain to soak this in. That the only cause, all suffering is caused by one thing and one thing only, which is your own thinking. There isn't any suffering in any experience. The suffering comes for what you think about the experience, the meaning that you give an experience. Like you say, the stories that we tell. And we've been living out those stories. It's like over and over again. It's like a broken record. It's like a record that we just keep listening to. You know how you get that song in your head and you can't get it out?
Mm-hmm.
That's that thinking that causes the suffering too. So you could take two people in the same situation. Let's say they've both been fired from their jobs, right? That's happening a lot nowadays, right? People being laid off or getting fired. So one person thinks that, oh, this is the end, that they're never going to get another job and they're never going to be able to pay their bills. They won't be able to pay the mortgage. They won't be able to support their family. Nobody's hiring these days. Well, can you see how that person moves into suffering state from their primal fears? Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, another person in the same situation, but they believe that life is always working for them. They think that perhaps an even better opportunity is going to show up. They look at their situation and realize that, you know, they were kind of stuck in that job anyway. It was an okay job, but they weren't growing. And now they have an opportunity to grow, to find something even better. And they realize that although it's a little bit scary, they know they're going to be all right. They're going to be just fine. More than that, that it's an opportunity to create something extraordinary for themselves. And that person then is operating from a powerful state of being. So let me ask, which person do you think is going to be more likely to find another job, a great job? Who do you think will be more resourceful, more creative, and more inspired? Right? Who's going to have a more enjoyable experience of that journey? Of course, the second person that's in a powerful state based on the way that they're thinking. And remember, the brain is a goal-achieving machine. So we see who is more likely to perceive and create even incredible opportunities from their thinking. And, we all can relate to this. I know I can, because, I tell my stories about moving to California and the thinking of loss and fear that we had until we were able to get our thinking in a more powerful state. So the next distinction here is that all suffering is caused by unintelligent thinking. What I mean by unintelligent thinking, it's like thinking that's outside of the natural way, thinking that's outside of truth and reality. And this is a powerful distinction because one of my mentors, he was, looking at his own life and suffering in his own life. And he looked at the suffering in the lives of thousands of people that he's worked with. And there was a quality to this thinking that caused the suffering. And I see it in my clients, in myself and my clients, and you see it in yourselves. What he said is that in every case, though, when he spent enough time working with someone and looking at their thinking, he found that the thinking was the cause of the suffering, but that thinking wasn't actually true. So this suffering thoughts, primal fear thoughts, at first they don't feel good, and then they're not true. And he realized that the truth was that on a moment-by-moment basis, even though sometimes it doesn't seem like it in the moment, but on a moment-by-moment basis, intelligence of life is always working for us. It's working to create our greatest prosperity, our greatest growth, our greatest expansion, evolution, and joy. Because life is always working for us. And any time we give a meaning to any experience that's other than that, when we believe that something is a problem or that this experience is bad or it's getting us upset or that the situation is somehow limiting us or our capability to create something amazing, then we're moving into suffering because it's not actually true. You see, the intelligent design of being a human being includes what we call an emotional guidance system. And when you're engaged with thoughts that aren't aligned with the truth of reality, then your system moves you into suffering as a way to signal you that you're moving out of the natural way and you're moving into a suffering primal fear state. And we can make this observation that if it's not true, then some form of the opposite must be true then. If you're thinking something that doesn't feel good, it's simply not true. We're going to teach a little bit more and then we'll make some comments. So the next distinction I want you to understand is that there's really one moment of transformation. We've been involved in teaching transformational learning for 22 years now. And what we're talking about now is really leading edge. And it's combining this whole idea of brain science, and neuroscience, and the nervous system is involved. But the one moment of transformation is the moment that you see that your unintelligent thinking is actually unintelligent. But one of the interesting things about one of my mentors' approach to transformation is there's only one moment, transformation. I mean, when I say transformation, I mean real permanent brain change that transforms who you are and what it is you create in this life. And unlike a lot of other personal development frameworks, what we're focusing on here is not you convincing yourself of a new story. Although, yes, you're right, the story's involved, but this is going beyond just creating a new story. This technology we're using here, these techniques, is going beyond temporarily shifting your state. Because in the long run, those methods don't create permanent change. We might change for a couple of weeks, but we're talking about permanent change. What does create permanent happens in one moment. The moment that you see your own thinking is unintelligent and that it's causing you suffering, and that you can make a new decision. Because when you experience your own thinking as untrue, then there's an immediate shift in your brain and a shift in your thinking. So for example, we had one client who wasn't making sales calls because she was afraid that she was going to bother people. And we helped her to see that she wasn't going to bother people. We helped her to see that there's really no such thing as bother, period. It's not, bother doesn't exist in the natural world. Birds aren't bothered. Clouds aren't bothered. Bother doesn't even exist. Bothered is when someone else moves into their own unintelligent thinking and their own suffering and they become bothered. So you really can't bother someone else. Right? Now, that person can move into bother or suffering. You might be talking to someone, or you might, making an offer to someone, maybe they could move into bothering, but that's their stuff, right? And when she saw that, in fact, she couldn't bother anybody, and the truth was that her fear of this imaginary thing called bother was preventing her from helping other people, and she started making no sales calls. So once you see your thinking is unintelligent, you can't unsee it then. So to work around the two states of being, acknowledging that all suffering is a result of unintelligent thinking, is about observing your own thinking until you see that it doesn't make any sense. And in that moment, you free yourself from suffering and you move back into a powerful state, which is where everything you want resides. So that's the teaching on this. And we just offer for the recording, if you're watching this recording, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you want to learn some more about this, how to get out of that suffering state, superperformance.as.me. I will be happy to have a 30-minute discovery call at no charge so we can help. Our mission, our vision really is to end suffering by moving us out of these fear-based limiting beliefs into more unconditional love energies, while at the same time enhancing, expanding our greater human potential and power. Where you can sign up, superperformance.as.me. And we thank you for your attention. Hey, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. When it comes to transformative learning, and adding divine instruction and adding brain science, you won't find a better place than right here. Yeah, we thank you.